Hers was a normal childhood, but at the age of 10, Marylize Biubwa was raped by an uncle. In this episode, we continue with the events that followed that terrible incident.
When I couldn't cry anymore, then I told her, uncle, for the only reason that I would want to.
No, we don't want to disclose, yes.
Yeah, so like I told him my uncle was there and he had just forced himself on me. And then she asked me, forced himself on you, how? And then I explained the whole scenario like, the way a small kid would explain. He removed his clothes and forced himself on me. And my mom looked at me for like 2 minutes or something. Then the only thing she said was, I am sorry. I don't know. Now I know how it felt. Back then I didn't know how it felt, but I just knew sorry is not a word I wanted to hear. Because I was feeling sorry for myself enough. I think that was enough. Like, the situation was, like, the emotional part of myself was like so far gone from me that I didn't want anyone to make it feel obvious. So for me, when she said sorry, I was like, okay. And then, like, there was some sort of a vacuum because I do not know if it's because she did not know what to say or I do not know what was going through her mind, but there was some sort of a vacuum because she wouldn't continue talking about the topic. And the following day, my father comes home because he normally doesn't come home that fast.
He wasn't there on
he
that
was
day,
away,
right.
So he came. And when he came, when he came to the house, the first thing that happened was they had an argument with my mom. I didn't listen in to the argument, but when they later on, like, sort of summoned me because, like, since that time, the whole time I was in my room, when they summoned me to the living room, then my dad starts saying, the first question he asked me was, what were you wearing when your uncle came into the house? And I'm like, I just went and brought all shorts that I own, and I told him I was wearing my short, these kinds of shorts that I always wear when I'm in the house. And he started now addressing my mom. I've told you for a number of times to tell your daughters to dress appropriately and not dress in a certain type of way because it's not appropriate. Now see what has happened. And I think if my dad was the kind of person I perceived when I grew up, maybe that would have been easy for me to hear because then it would be like same old story, But this is someone I looked up to. At some point, I understood my mom because I'm a daddy's girl. So for me to get my way, most of the time, it's about my dad. So maybe, But when it came from my dad, it was, my heart broke all over again.
He let you down.
I felt every other sort of betrayal that you'd ever think of because then what was the essence of having that relationship we have? Because when a girl loves her dad the way I loved mine, it should be an all-round kind of relationship where I'm a young girl, so he actually has a big...
This doesn't happen to his princess.
Exactly.
You do something other than ask me what was I wearing.
Exactly.
You get out of that house and look for this man and take him to town.
Exactly, because it's his princess. And the following day, after the day my dad came home, the same day in the evening, not my uncle, but because he was not married, but the people he lives with in the house, like some sort of family elders of some sort, were summoned to my house. And they talked out everything. But while they were talking, my dad wouldn't stop stating over and over, we keep telling our children to dress better, but they do not listen. No. So back in my head, I had already told myself, like, this is just going to be a mere talk.
Nothing will come of
It's not
it.
like I expected something big to happen. At 10 years old, I was not thinking justice. At 10 years old, I was not thinking, let's go report this somewhere. At 10-year-old, I was thinking my dad would position himself differently. Like he'd be, this is not right.
Yeah, at 10, you already understood.
Exactly.
Daddy, you're not protecting me. So here you are, a young girl who's been bitterly disappointed, grossly violated, and the elders are all talking, and nobody is speaking up for you in this meeting. What happened after the meeting? What was the resolution? Were you ever told what happened next? Or was it, let's all get in the car and go back to the city and just move on with our lives?
Pretty much after that meeting and everything, the next thing that happened is basically we traveled back. But for me, it was curious. Like, I wanted to know what really transpired. Then I talked to my mom, and she told me, that is your uncle. And when they talked, they decided to solve the issue within the family because there's a family name to protect. And so for them, that was really the most important thing. And they didn't want to, when something like this goes out there, then it's like basically shaming the family name, which is not something they wanted to go for. So, and then my mom goes ahead and tells me, but your uncle said he was sorry for the situation, but
That word
that's that's the only thing that could happen. And most of the time right now when I think of it, I feel like when my mom said the first sorry, it was basically to apologize for him. Now I know when something like that happens, this person has to go through a lot of an environment that is loving and all, but after that, there's a lot of counseling that is needed, which is something that I really didn't get because, like I said, there's this vacuum between myself and my mom. It's like, I don't know if it's a heartbreaking when she looks at me or the situation is really bad, she can't really talk to me about it, and then I don't have anyone to talk about it to. Given I'm the last born and the one I follow in my siblings is a brother, I can't really talk much about the situation to my brother. Then my siblings, like between my brother and the older one, there's a pretty huge gap. So like she's my big sister. It's not like normal to just sit and talk to her about these things. So for me, I talked to myself mostly about the whole situation, like just sitting. And
is that how you were able to pull yourself to where you are today, or did you get help along the way?
Along the way, I didn't get any kind of help.
So you're sitting here based on those internal conversations.
Yes.
Based on sheer strength and something happening on the inside.
Yeah.
There was no counseling.
None whatsoever.
There was no, let's sit down, let's fix this,
None whatsoever. So the whole time it was basically, at some point I had to jump out of myself, like I characterize myself. So in my head, there's a character that is me. And in this character, I kept talking, we have to get over this situation. We have to grow beyond this situation. Because as it has proven, for me, the bigger picture was life goes on. No matter what you go through, life goes on. You can only be the one who chooses whether to go along with life or to stop or to break down or to just give up. It's you who makes that choice.
This is a very deeply personal journey and experience for you.
Yeah.
And you survived high school. You're a student now.
Yeah.
I think you're studying communication.
Yeah.
And teaching others, creating awareness, it's very important to you. That is why we're even sitting here, because you can rise above it and you can be something despite what has happened. Why is that so important to you?
Through the whole experience and years after, the one thing that I really needed was someone to speak for me. Because at 10, there's a lot of things that people don't associate with you. You don't have a voice. You have a guardian who should speak for you. You have a guardian who should guide your actions and stuff. You have people who speak for you. And for me, it was like every morning I wake up, I tell myself, I have to tell a story. It doesn't have to be my story, but I have to speak for someone. Because we have a lot of people that go through things, but they can't speak about them. And I always think of a girl in a place like Turkana, where she has to walk for miles to go find water. And time is not, it's not something they consider really. So how many girls in Turkana get sexually abused every day and nobody gets to hear about it? Then you have to think of others, very severe situations, like there is a tragedy somewhere. And most of the time, when people are running to save their lives, people forget we have women and children who, despite saving their lives, they're saving their lives from people who might basically abuse them, take advantage of them. Then I think of the most normal situations. There's a young girl, there's a lady, there's a woman out there who's looking for a job. And we live in a society where gender-based violence, especially sexual abuse and rape, has been normalized totally. And for me, that conviction makes me want to do something about it.
Right.
Most importantly with girls and most importantly with children, because I feel like there's a huge gap that needs to be bridged between being a child and growing up to be a normal citizen of any country.
Now, I know you're very outspoken about it, and you speak to young girls.
Yeah.
You speak, I think, in churches as well. You've got different platforms where you communicate this message. How can people find you and get in touch with you?
I'm a very active person on social media, like on all avenues of social media possible. And to find me is not hard. My name is Marylize Biubwa, so just
Look
even go on Google and say Marylize. Yes, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm very active on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on WeChat, I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on
You're
basically
everywhere where a young girl can find you when they need help.
Because a young girl is literally everywhere. And you have to understand that for the kind of things that I do, you don't necessarily have to help a girl who lives in Kenya. Sometimes there's a girl who goes through situations and she does not have anyone to talk to and she's not in Kenya. The mere fact that I know I've placed myself in a position where they can find me even on social media and talk to me about it and get me to try to even just if it's talking and giving them virtual hugs and to tell them it will be okay, then I'd appreciate doing that. So for me, social media is a tool that I use to change the society, basically, yeah.
In closing, I go back to family. And what is your relationship with your family like now?
Most of the time I've had people with my story that say I don't have a relationship with my family. I, on the other hand, have been trying to rebuild the relationship with my family. First, because of everything that happened, at some point I was like a really rebellious kid. Not rebellious in a bad way. Rebellious, I didn't like it when someone tells me something. Because of what happened, I felt like I have more right to decide what is right for me than anyone else deciding for me. Because when people had to decide for me, they did not decide the right things for me. So because of that, there was some sort of a gap, especially between myself and a sister who comes before my brother, because she wouldn't understand me. And it was really hard because she's the closest person I would talk to. And it becomes hard when you want to relate, but you can't relate because you look at her and you know 100% she wouldn't understand you. But over time, I've been trying to build that relationship. Right now, I can gladly say my sister and my brother are my best friends because I stay in the same house with them. And for us, evening and meeting each other after our days, hassles and everything is a moment that I always look forward to. Other than that, I've grown pretty close with my mom. I wouldn't say we've really talked about the situation and gotten over the vacuum. I just decided this is a vacuum she built, but this is a vacuum I'm ready to unbuild, even if it means not talking about the situation. And when it comes to my dad, I try as much as possible to not make it awkward for any of us. And when he would call me, most of the time he's not calling to tell me, hi, how you doing? He's calling to ask me, I've been trying to reach your brother, but he's not picking. Where is he?
It's not
there's no attachment in that conversation. It's basically him wanting to know about my siblings, you know. And I try hard not to deny him wanting to know whatever he wants to know from me. So when he calls, I pick. We don't talk. Like right now I can say comfortably, the last time we talked was like 2.5 months ago. And for me, it's okay because it's not a bad relationship. It's not perfect, but it's not bad because when we see each other eye to eye, there's no awkward, at least not as far as he's concerned. Because deep down, a lot of things come back to me when we are in that moment. But I decided to, overlook. I mean, it happened and nothing happened then.
Be the bigger person and just live your life
I don't
now.
think anything that would happen now would pretty much change anything about what happened then. So for me then, I'm trying to live life as it is. And like I said, a lot of positivity. I try in every situation I am in every space that I share with people, I try to ensure that I live positivity in that space. Because for me, that's a big deal. It's like a huge deal.
Thank you so much, Marylize, for sharing your incredible journey. It hasn't been easy, but thank you. If you're tuned in and need help and have not spoken, please speak up. If nobody has defended you or protected you, Marylize is here. And for anybody and everybody who has been subjected to violence, something good can still come out of the situation. Marylize is living proof that it is possible. We are going to post all of her contacts on our social media sites. Be sure to check them out and seek the help that is available for you. We are going to sign off now from the lovely Westwood Hotel. Thank you for catching up with us on yet another episode of Sheila Lives Out Loud. Remember to click subscribe and hit on notifications and never miss an episode of the show. In all things, no matter what you do, live out loud. Bye for now.